Okay, so today let's solve meeting rooms Leetcode number 256. Given an array of meeting times intervals, where intervals has the start and the end, determine if a person could attend all meetings. So our input here is the intervals, and it seems to be an array of arrays. Each inner array has two elements, so we have an array of tuples. And we want to find if a person can attend all meetings. So basically, what that means, if a meeting overlaps, then the person cannot attend all meetings. We have a meeting here in our first example, 0, that goes all the way to 30. And then next, we have a meeting that goes all the way to 10. And then another meeting that goes from 15 to 20. And obviously, since the person can't be in meeting 1 at the same time as meeting 2 and meeting 3, then that person cannot be all meetings. One thing to note in the second example they have given here is that the intervals array is not sorted. And that kind of poses a problem because if we're adding first like the array 7, interval 7 and then 10, and then we had to go back and check 2 to 4, that's not really ideal. We had to go back and check that, right? So what we can do is that we can first sort the array. That's going to be given by, in this case, sorting by the first element of each inner array. So we'll have 2 to 4 kind of show up before we have 7 to 10. All right. So first thing we should probably do before we do anything is sort the array. Of intervals. Next thing we need to do is to keep track if basically this problem wants to know if any intervals overlap. And that can be done by pushing to some sort of data structure where if you want to push we first want to like scan our intervals array starting with the beginnings. So if there's 0, then we want to push the end time to that data structure. That would be 30. And then next we encounter 5. And we know that 5 is less than 30. So then we can't do anything anymore, right? So we're kind of stuck there. We had to return false. In this second example, maybe we see 2 at the beginning, so we push 4 onto this data structure. And then next we see 7. Well, we see that 7 is greater than 4, so we can kind of pop that off, 4 off the data structure, and then we just have 7. And so now we have reached the end of intervals, so we can kind of just stop there. So it seems like what we're doing after we're sorting is that we're just pushing end onto an array and then see if next beginning is less than end. And then if true, remove end and push new end. And continue until all intervals are scanned. All right. So we may or may not need like some kind of advanced data structure. Maybe we just need to keep track of the ends. I'll start this problem off by sorting the intervals, which we know that we need to do. Intervals.sort. And in Python, you need a key. And that key is going to be each element in this array. So it's going to say like element. And then we want to sort by the beginning. So element and then element of 0. That will give us a sorted array. And then for, we can just iterate through this sorted array now. We don't really need any more data structures, so we could say start end in intervals, and we want to be comparing our current element to the previous element. So we'll start with 1. And if we're starting with 1, that means we need to check if the number of meetings, so if length of intervals, that's less than 2, obviously that person can attend all meetings, because then there's 1 or 0 meetings, so you can attend all meetings. All right, so now we're just looking at a case where we have 2 meetings or more, and so we want to compare the start of this interval, and then I kind of boxed myself into a corner here because we're using this type of iteration where we just iterate through each element, and that's going to kind of make us stuck. So instead, we do actually need to iterate from the range of 1 going to the length of intervals. And then now we have like indices. So we can say maybe then start n is going to be equal to intervals of I. So we can destructure the elements in each interval, and we have cleaner code to write with. And then we want to compare this to previous end. So we can destructure again intervals of I minus 1. And this underscore here is just because we don't need whatever was being destructured first. And then now we want to compare if the start of this current interval is greater than or equal to the previous end, then actually we don't want to do anything here. So how we can restructure this is if that condition is not true. If start is less than or equal to the previous end, then we'll return false. And then otherwise, if we go through the entire intervals array, then we can return true. And so I'm very tempted to click the run button right now, but you're not always going to be able to have that. So we're going to do it this way, where we kind of just walk through the code. So first we have sorted this array. We end up with a sorted array here. And then we have the length of intervals is 3, so we don't return true here. Then we go from I on 1 to the length of intervals, and we do start end. So start and end, this is the first element, one element. That's 5 and 10. And we're comparing now to the previous one, 30. So 5 is less than 30. That's true. Then we had to return false. Person cannot attend all meetings. Next we have 7 and 10 here, which actually we have sorted, so that becomes 2 and 40, or 2, 4, and 7 and 10. And so now we have 7 is the next start, 10 is the next end. And so we're comparing this start here, which is 7, to the previous end, which is 4. And 7 is greater than 4. We go through it, and we step through all of the items. Then now we can try running. And we have a syntax error. I forgot to put the word lambda, that's all. All right, so we passed through our kind of simple test cases. We already are checking for the edge case here if we have like a 1. And there are some other edge cases I might want to check for, like if these intervals, let's say you want to change this so that this is 2 and 7. So this interval looks like it overlaps, but if you're not counting inclusive, like 7 at the end includes the 7 at the beginning here, then it should, we do want to return true in this case. All right, that works. Submit, and it looks like we have a pretty decent solution. And I actually solved this earlier but I don't remember exactly what I did. I think I had a more overcomplicated solution. So let's go see what I did here. And in this solution, I actually used a heap because I was thinking that we need to pop from this queue until no items left, and then compare like the popped items with whatever I put top of queue here, but I meant stack. And then we want to check if the interval is inside of another interval. There's some various test cases. The code for this doesn't look that long, but we're using this method called heapq.heapPop when we kind of don't really need to. And heapifying this also takes O of n log n. Compared to the solution that I have that I just live coded in front of you today, this actually takes the same time complexity. I would expect this solution to be a little bit faster just because we're not like having to, well, okay, so we're heapifying. And in this solution here, just because we're not having to pop something off a heap every time, we're just comparing two items in memory, although we're storing kind of the value here. Well, no, it would be a pointer because this is also an object. But either way you do this way probably is more generalized. You can go on and solve meeting rooms 2 with this heap approach, whereas this solution here is just kind of like a simple intervals comparison approach. Either one of these would be valid, but heaps will become a very important part of the solution for meeting rooms 2 and 3 later on. So I hope that you found this solution helpful to you, just to see how long it might take to complete an easy problem on Leetcode. That took me around like 10 minutes if I'm not kind of elaborating on other things. So I did see this problem before, like I showed you, I did solve it yesterday, but I didn't remember that solution and I just used a completely different approach. Maybe this is close to how you'll be solving it realistically. So good luck on your coding, and I hope to do another one of these videos soon.